Tell you, the early 2000s me that was in high school is kind of in disbelief. You're sitting right next to Chris Nowinski, of course, Tough Enough, WWE. Now he does fantastic work. Now, I even left off Harvard. Who could forget your character? WWE made us know that you went to Harvard and played football at Harvard.
That's all I ever said.
We know
you guys are
stuck in
very
my
lucky
head.
to have an actual Harvard graduate
Yeah.
on your show.
Is that the gimmick of choice of yours?
No, it wasn't a choice. It was because I was on Tough Enough. There were two Chris's on the show, so they made everyone start calling me Chris Harvard, and I didn't realize immediately that would make me a heel for the rest of my life because no one has sympathy for Harvard kids.
They say that Vince McMahon, like, you never want to play your hand as to what your hobbies are or your background, because he'll just pick something out and give you it. For instance,
you like to dance?
For instance, Barry Windham told him that he asked him what he likes to do, and he goes, hunt. And he goes, well, perfect, kid. You're the stalker. That's what happened. So never. I don't know what Terry Taylor told him to become the Red Rooster. Different story. But what a great time! You came in. I think it was you were on the very first Tough Enough with Maven, right?
Yeah, Maven was on it with me. But yes, that was.
Oh, that's right. Apologies. He did knock the Undertaker out of the Royal Rumble.
I'm sure he won, but hey,
yeah,
that was a strong runner-up.
It was very memorable because a lot of you guys on those early Tough Enoughs really contributed, really came in and were a part of storylines, and that was Nydia came on a little later, and some of those guys, and then later ones it's nothing really would happen. They didn't make it. You guys were solidified in that.
Well, they did give us a great opportunity. It was early days of reality TV, but I loved it because it was just a fascinating way to learn how to do the business. I'd already enrolled in Killer Kowalski, so I knew a couple of things. But then to work with Al Snow and Taz and Jacqueline and gang every day for 6 hours a day was just mind-blowing.
How much of a fan of the wrestling business and wrestling were you before that? And where do you think the company, WWE specifically, and the business is at today? After WCW was purchased in 2001, they don't have that big rivalry. We all know about the Monday Night Wars. And where it is today, it seems like it's lacking that big competition, although AEW is making a push at that.
Yeah. So I had a stunted fanship. So my mother didn't allow me to watch it growing up. So I'd only see it at my cousin's house, and then they'd always do the news on me. It's not me, and I didn't know how to defend myself. But it was actually in college. There were 6 of us before our senior year that were training for the NFL. We had a 2-bedroom place. It was just all on top of each other. And they were wrestling fans, and they got me hooked. And we'd all watch wrestling together. And I was like, this looks like the most fun job in the world, And so I'd done some theater, and with football, I said, basically someone put it in my mind, you should give that a try. It was the first boss, John Corcoran, said, this straight job will always be here. You should give it a try. And so I went for it, and it was, I loved it. It's really, as a form of entertainment, it's unbelievable. It's live, it's improvised. The interaction with the crowd, the physical feats. It was the most challenging thing I could find at that time to do. Try to make a living out of it. So it was fun. I'm not good to comment on the creative side of it. I still watch. I still love it. Yeah. I do love, though, one of the most, not to switch off the wrestling discussion, but what I love most of all is how much WWE and now AEW has embraced, concussion awareness and let me go in and train the guys and really have prioritized a safer environment. So really, sort of proud that the guys are better protected now than they ever have.
Well, it's so very Harvard of you to become, a neuroscientist. It's very Harvard of you, but yet you've done it, and you've done some very, very important research, like you talked about, on concussions and the effects. I kind of find it hard to believe that it took until very recently for this to become so paramount, and so much so that even in WWE now they have very similar concussion protocols as the NFL or the NHL would. How did you kind of go down this path, and in your research, how did this kind of all come about for you to get into that field kind of after your wrestling?
So WWE was, sort of sparing no expense, sending me around to doctors to try to figure out why my headaches wouldn't go away, why I felt what's called behavior disorder, I had sleep issues, and it was doctor number 8, Dr. Robert Cantu, who was the one who opened up my eyes to the fact that I'd been getting concussions my whole career. I wasn't calling concussions. I wasn't telling doctors, and not getting a million concussions and not taking any days off afterwards, it basically destroyed my brain. And I was like, wow, I can't believe I didn't know as a 25-year-old Harvard graduate what a concussion was. Like, that's sort of insane. And that I just destroyed my brain out of ignorance. So I sort of set my mind to, this is an easy culture to change. Like, athletes would be happy to take a few days off if they thought it would save their brain. And so let's do it. And so it started with a book. And when I was researching the book, that's when I realized that I got to whisper it here, but the NFL was covering enough and playing the role of big tobacco. So I wrote this book and said we got to change things. And then I also started talking about CTE because we had those 2 cases in NFL players, and I said, not only are concussions horrible, but there's this other monster waiting for us. Now we know that monster's dramatically bigger than we ever thought. We just diagnosed our 315th NFL player. But yeah, that's how I got into it. I was just mad. I was really mad that like we were all killing ourselves so that some people could make more money.
Yeah, and how much do we know about the effects of CTE? I mean, you hear about stories like Junior Seau, Chris Benoit, to go back to the wrestling.
Aaron Hernandez.
Yes.
Yep.
And our friend,
Longtime
friend, great Raider, won Super Bowls with John Madden, George Atkinson.
Sure.
He's talking in his 70s. He's talking about he's got memory stuff. We tried to schedule something. He's like, you can't schedule it. You just got to call me at that time and try to check it out. So
stay in touch with him. He's a great guy.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wow. Yes. He's the
So CTE is a really difficult neurodegenerative brain disease. You're learning. You're getting it when you start, when you're playing. So as a teenager or 20-something, you start these little lesions in your brain that spread. And the longer you play, the greater your risk. In midlife, you can start having problems with mental health, with some memory. You have what's called neurobehavioral dysregulation. End of life, we're talking about progressive cognitive decline and dementia that looks like Alzheimer's. And everyone's a little different because there's genetic predispositions and other things. And so some people will be fine until they're 70. Other ones can have their lives destroyed in their 20s. And we don't know how to diagnose some of the people yet. We don't know how to treat it yet. We can't even measure it. We have a lot of work ahead of us, but we've built this research thanks to 1,200 families who have donated the brains of loved ones, and we've completely changed everything we thought we knew about this disease.
When it comes to a sport like professional, like sports entertainment, wrestling, to me, maybe that there's more of a danger there because it seems to me like you're just developing, you're taking bumps, you're taking punches that go awry, you're taking all these little things that just add up over a course of a match, over the course of a week. The schedule is ridiculous. You're on there more than say just a football game where you may have 20, 25 small car wrecks, as they say. To me, wrestling, there's a real danger there because of the cumulative effect. I'll call it that.
So it's a great question. So there can be a great danger in wrestling. And when I was there, people, it was in vogue to give stiff punches and stiff kicks and do really risky things. What we talk about every time when I go there is that it's really meant to be entertainment. You're really meant to be a stunt person who's taking zero risk.
Right.
Like, that's the design. And it's up to you what you do to yourself, and it's up to your partner you're working with what you do. But you should walk away from this thing never getting hurt and never getting hit in the head. Like, that's the gold standard goal. And I'm very appreciative that we've had Paul Levesque on our board of directors for 2 terms and 6 years. And he sits in those meetings, he learns the science, he learns what people are doing. And that's why there's been such an emphasis on it. And the good news about wrestling is that longevity is good for them, right? Like, the NFL knows they can get another guy who's 99% as good any day. Wrestling, it's about superstars, and people can have 40-year careers never getting hurt. So if you do wrestling right, you'll never get a concussion, and you'll barely get tapped in the head. And we don't think that bumps, like just a controlled bump, is creating enough G-force to damage your brain. But if you do it wrong, things can go really bad really fast.
What do you think of the Heads Up program? It kind of sounds good in theory, and you just hear it in passing, but when you spend some time
They've
actually
abandoned
thinking
it.
about it.
They've abandoned the Heads Up. I was just looking at the USA Football website. They no longer promote it. I think it's because they had the word head in it. And it's parents worried. But like Heads Up for kids, like there's the CDC Heads Up program is great. USA Football Heads Up tackling. I mean, come on, like asking children to tackle a moving object.
Yeah, and don't you think it should be pushed back? Like, kids should be able to play tackle football in high school. That's where we should be starting.
Exactly. We actually have a campaign called Flag Football Under 14. We just did a PSA with Brett Favre. Like the next big, now that we've like solved like the NFL is dramatically safer than it used to be, but it's still entertainment. Adults make money. The next battle is kids. We published that if every 2.5 years you play, your risk of season doubles. We did that by studying 266 football players' brains. So if it's that, and that's just like smoking lung cancer, right? Smoke a week, and you're not going to, your odds of lung cancer are infinitesimally small. You smoke 50 years, they're hugely high. It's the same thing, except for the curve in football is faster. Like we don't have many people, if we have any, I don't even know, who played more than 20 years ago. We have, right? So we probably have some, but it's small. It's just a small part of that sample. So the point is that if you want to protect your kid, but you want them to touch football, don't let them play tackle until high school, and then hope he doesn't play college too. And you have a 4-year window where you're going to maybe learn some lessons and get more than it takes from you. Because the game, unfortunately, literally takes brain cells.
Yeah, and you hear people talk about the exception and not the rule. Like, oh, my grandpa smoked till he was 99 and it was nothing. And I played football for 30 years and nothing's happened to me or whatever. Like,
people are fascinated by that whole idea of risk factors. But they don't know it, right?
Right.
So there was literally a headline in Australia of 3 brothers all played national rugby. One's dramatically demented, the other 2 are fine. And all they want to talk about was, well, why is he different? It's like, who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't matter. The point is that 1 out of 3 guys who did the same thing are messed up.
Yes.
I swear on this.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Please. No one has yet. We were waiting for that. To me, that there's still so many inconsistencies because there was a playoff game last year where Patrick Mahomes, he took a hit against the Browns. He comes off, he collapses briefly.
Teammates try to pick him up, his legs are wrong.
Tries to pick him up, his legs are up, he goes off. And, of course, he doesn't come back and play that day, thank God, although the game almost got away from us and I was getting nervous. But that's just a fan in me. Forgive me, Chris. There's a fan in me that's just like, what? We got to win this somehow. Chad Henne comes in, Chiefs win. But, he's back the next week. They said he never had a concussion. There was no concussion.
They tried to get away with it.
So no, tell us that was not the case. Clearly,
like about that thing where you get hit in the neck and your whole body falls apart for 3 minutes. Like, no, that's Star Trek.
So
that's a TV show.
So how does this happen?
So
there's lots
of things happening there. Part of it is that they literally did. I remember it was like a second person. We heard this because it was so scientifically ridiculous. But they're trying to protect his career a little bit in the sense that like the more concussions you have, the less value you have. So if you're a player, you don't necessarily want to have a diagnosed concussion. And they're trying to game it so maybe you can play again, so they don't have to go through that whole protocol and have that scrutiny. But what we tell them is, you are screwing kids when you play these word games around this, because we are trying to reach kids with educational messaging around this, and we don't have the platform. We don't have the reach. Football is the most watched thing in this country, and they talk about this so badly that we actually launched a program with Bob Costas to train broadcasters how to talk about concussions so they don't hurt kids.
Yes.
So they got to use the right words. You can't call it a head injury. You can't ignore it when it happens. You've got to say, this is what's happening. It's just reporting. It's just doing your job. But the NFL's got them so fearful to draw attention to concussions that they're sending out bad messaging that's hurting kids.
I remember that they were strict about that, on not speculating.
Yeah. Oh, you can't speculate about an injury. Oh, God forbid. But, of course, when it's a hand, that's a knee, that's a shoulder, that's a brain injury. Like they do it. They just carved out brain injuries because it's bad for business.
And how do you feel about independent neurologists for these NFL teams? Are they really independent? Are they really doing what's in the best interest of the players? The pressure from the team and the player?
Yes. When they're not paid by the team, I mean, there is prestige to being it, but they don't really promote that they're independent neurologists. I think it's as best as you can have. Mm-hmm. Is that then they both have to agree. I mean, they're still going to, and they follow a very strict protocol. I mean, it's taken 10 years of having the protocol to get to a point where, like, now it's like, I don't know what I would criticize next. I criticized it but now it's gotten much better. But the sort of sad thing that they do need to invest on.
Yes.
Like, what kind of commentary?
We absolutely cannot trust anyone involved with this. So we need someone independent outside to come in.
Do you ever feel like you're villainized for what you do? Because to me, like in just in this conversation and knowing what you've done and just some of the research and some of the things that I've read about this company, to me, you're not trying to say, we can't have sports, we can't have football. You're not Dr. Fauci here. Sorry. You're trying to make this safer and better for generations to come, so that we can have these things and that it can be done without someone, say, turning into a serial killer like Aaron Hernandez.
Yeah.
Or dying at 52.
Yeah, exactly. No, how people look at this has changed over the years. When I first started coming to Radio Row, I was 90% heel, 10% people thought I was a baby face.
Well,
and now that's probably switched.
oh yeah, see? It's time for a character turn there. We're good.
It's like Hulk Hogan, Hulkamania. He made the switch to NWO.
Well, that's great. Well, what else do you got going on in LA? You're here at Radio Row. This is tremendous. This is our first year here. Believe it or not, well, you know, we got hooked up with Mike Dempsey, and all of a sudden our lives started changing. You know, that
tends
goes.
to happen with Mike.
Yeah, he's a connector.
What else you got going on in LA here? We got several days left. You got the game on Sunday. What else?
Oh,
You got
yeah, the
going?
game.
I'm out of town tomorrow. I come to this because this is the convention of football. So I've recruited about 20 people to various studies of ours, so we're recruiting for. And actually met a bunch of families I'm going to try to help with family members who are suffering with issues. And then I'll go see Brett Favre this afternoon. You know, he did a big PSA for us, and we're going to reconnect with you on the next project. Go to the Gridiron Greats tonight to show my support for that great organization. But again, part of it is mingling and trying to get people to be part of studies or help those in need. I met a Hall of Famer today who's struggling, and his wife does not have a doctor that she trusts. And I'm like, how can a Hall of Famer who should have access to everyone not have the right medical care? And she doesn't have even a network of wives going through it. Unfortunately, I know hundreds of wives who've been through what she's been through, and I'm going to introduce her to that community so she's not alone.
Well, that is just tremendous, guys. Chris Nowinski, you do such great work, and you know we can't thank you enough because you know we love the game, we love football, we want these people's lives. You know, we know George Atkinson personally, and that was something that when you connect to it on a personal level, you know someone that's affected, they'll just flat out tell you, yeah, I forget things. I can remember who my starting offensive line was in 1976. I can't remember who the Raiders quarterback is now, and he's on the radio team. You know? That's so important. So thanks for all you do. This is tremendous. Thanks for stopping by. It's really good to meet you, my friend.
You too.
Thanks a lot.
All right.
Chris.
It's been an honor. Thank you.
Thanks.